So my name is Mark Bishop. I'm one of about 2,000 victims of the Connaught Income Fund Series 1, a collective investment scheme within the regulatory perimeter of the FSA, as it was at that time, the FCA now. We lost between us about £104 million. Less than returned capital plus some interest and consequential losses and opportunity costs ends up at about £100 million. Since 2012, when the fund was suspended, I have worked as kind of de facto leader of the Connaught Action Group and chair of the Liquidators Committee to attempt to secure redress, and also really to try and achieve regulatory reform and to help other people who have been affected by financial services misconduct of one sort or another and regulatory failure. Being part of Transparency Task Force matters a lot to me because I see it as a unique organisation that brings together two groups of people. The first is what I call the honest guys in the financial services industry, the quiet majority who actually want to improve it and want to make money fairly and honestly and in a way that benefits society and in particular their customers. With the second group of people, which is people like me, those who have to some degree experienced what happens when things go wrong from a consumer perspective and want to work with the honest majority in the industry to fix the situation. I think that Transparency Task Force mission statement really says it all. This is very much an organisation that is in the business of trying to encourage and lobby for continuous improvement in financial services in affecting consumers. And that is partly about the behaviour of individuals in the industry. It's very much about how the industry is regulated as well. Being a member benefits me because I am able to learn from the experiences and knowledge and expertise of other people. With Transparency Task Force having so many members, I think that there are about 2,700, 2,800 of them spread across the world. There are people who are specialists in almost everything. If you want to know how, for example, Twin Peaks regulation has led to regulatory capture in Australia and how that was dealt with by means of a Royal Commission, also how if we in the UK were to have a Royal Commission, we could learn from the Australian experience and do it better. There are people within TTF that know about that. Similarly, there are people who know about the treatment of whistleblowers in America, how they can receive financial incentives. We can discuss the pros and cons of whether that would be an appropriate solution in the UK. So really, whatever question you have about financial services and how they can be improved, there are people in Transparency Task Force who have expertise in that field and are willing to share it very generously with others. The reason I've become a subscription member is because I recognise that it costs money to run Transparency Task Force, and that money has to come from somewhere. In a better world, frankly, it would be funded by a mandatory levy on the FCA, and it would have a remit to ensure that the FCA does a good job, but we're not in that position at the moment. So it has to be funded from somewhere. If it were funded by huge donations from the financial services industry, I think it would probably not be the honest campaigning organisation that it is today. So in an imperfect world, it needs somebody to fund it, and the best way is that the crowd funds it. We all pay something, we pay what we can afford in order that the organisation has the resources it needs to work. In the time that I've been involved with Transparency Task Force, I've worked very closely with Andy Agathangelo, the founder, and I can tell you he works extremely long hours, very hard. He puts a lot of himself into what he does. He has a huge level of commitment. He deserves to earn a level of salary. He needs to earn a level of salary in order to be able to afford to do it. He is supported by a fantastic team of part-time employees whose skills cover things like social media, web development, looking after the membership database, organising events, all of these things that happen because somebody's doing them, and somebody therefore has to earn some level of living wage from doing that. And really it's incumbent on all of us to pay something towards that cost. Those who are in the industry, you are lucky to be working in a profession that's generally quite well paid. You can almost always afford to pay the headline membership fee. Please do so. Those of us who are victims of financial service misconduct, often we have less ability to do so, and we also put a huge amount of time into campaigning for the victims in our own cases, and we can make a case for a reduced membership fee. The final point I would like to make is simply that Transparency Task Force is a unique organisation. There is nothing like it, and it's unlikely that somebody would create anything like it again. So it's incumbent on all of us to ensure that it is and remains in rude health. And part of that is to ensure that it exists on a viable financial footing, and that requires there to be a membership fee. It doesn't just require there to be a membership fee, it requires us to pay it. Can't just leave it up to some other people. Thank you.